This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
WMEs.
And you may notice, hey, you know what, Ricky, Mark sounds a little different today. Why is that? Well, scheduling has been tough between us, and Mark calling in on the MVP Onside Kick, whatever you want to call it, hotline today. So we got Mark over the phone, got another jam-packed show for you guys. But before I get into what we're going to talk about, I have a special announcement to make. Because of March Madness on the college side, me and Brandon talked about that in the Primetime podcast, but in the Onside Kick, we always do a special kind of bracket about football where you guys get to vote, people move on, we find out the best. We did sports movies last year. Well, this year we're doing the best all-time wide receivers. We're going to have a link down to the first round down below for you guys, so go ahead, click that out, just vote on that. Each week we will have the new round until we crown a champion this year for March. This year we're looking at the best wide receivers. But today on the podcast we're going to be looking at, it's a very Houston, Texan, Denver show with a little Patriot and Cardinal at the end. We've got Brock signing with Houston, signed exactly right after, the day after, Mark, that we recorded last week's podcast. Brock the Cock decided to sign with the Texans.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I mean, I go back and forth on it. I don't necessarily think it was the smartest move he could have made, but I understand why he did it for two reasons. Reason one being, well, I want to get money. This team has more money. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes sense. I get that. Reason number two, I get it, but I get it slightly less. Although I did call it way, way long ago, is, hey, you guys benched me. I was your starting quarterback, and you benched me. I'm out. See you later. However, the reason why I say I get that slightly less, like I get why he did it. But remember a certain quarterback that Ricky Widmer loves quite a bit. He was enjoying his time as starting quarterback in the NFL. Things were going great. And his team, they didn't bench him, but they drafted a new quarterback. Not necessarily to replace him, just to have on the roster. Maybe groom him, trade bait him, see whatever. And this quarterback who was the starter got upset and said, I want out. Everybody hated him for it. Ricky hates him to this day still. He still hates Jay Cutler. Still hates the man.
Thought you were going to go with a different name. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, who's he going to go with? Who is he? I thought you were going to go Tim Tebow, but yeah, you went Jay Cutler route.
I went Jay Cutler because he's still in the NFL.
Yeah, well, Tim Tebow worked on his throwing mechanics, and no one gave him the fifth chance.
He's, you know, every offseason he improves his throwing mechanics. Still nobody cares. But, you know, it's just interesting to me, like, everybody hated Jay Cutler for that. Brock Osweiler got benched for, you know, Peyton Manning, which is an understandable benching.
Oh, it is. It totally is.
Freaks out and says, I want out. To where also, kind of something that a lot of people are sweeping under the rug, he just stopped talking to the Broncos. Like, there was no real good negotiation because Brock Osweiler just stopped talking to them. And basically the Broncos organization says, oh, okay, I guess we're done. You know, and I think not a good look for the man who's the face of your franchise right now. Kind of a childish reaction. I get it because he's young. You know, I think he's my age, 25. So I get that. But, you know, it's I would have expected more people to jump on him for that, but it doesn't seem like very many people are.
Well, and I mean, the thing that I think of, and you make great points, and the thing that is the first thing is, what did you expect to happen, Brock? You take the starting job because Gary Kubiak at the time was like, you know what, we're going to stick with, like, Peyton Manning's injured. He can't come out, so Brock, you're the starter. What did you think was going to happen when Peyton Manning, in his last season, got healthy? What did you think was going to happen? You were going to get benched, and arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I know we say the GOAT is Tom Brady, but Peyton Manning is pretty damn good himself. Arguably, we have two GOATs, and that is something that you don't get that often in any sport. What did you think was going to happen? So, I mean, the anger that I see from Brock that, you know what, it rubbed me the wrong way and I need a change of scenery. Like, that's something where, and you mentioned how I hate Jay Cutler. I never hated Jay Cutler for anything that went on in Denver. The thing I hate Jay Cutler for is, and it's the one thing that I think you have said it, but I know Dave from the Fast Break tells me all the time, is that I'm wrong in categorizing Jay as this because he's not, but I hate how Jay doesn't put on the role of leader for the team in a way that like Tom Brady would, or Peyton Manning would, or Eli would, or the stereotypical quarterback where you are the leader. You're not supposed to look like Jay Cutler. When I look at him, it looks like he doesn't give a shit, all the time. That's why we get like the smoking Jay Cutler memes. But
yeah, a lot of people, you're a little different in that case. A lot of people they already had a dislike because of what happened in Denver.
Well, that's because he was kind of a little whiner about it. That's what they see. Like, he was you'd see the Denver fans with the crybaby signs. Because, I want out of Denver. I want to trade. That's what they were thinking. Me with Brock, it's like, what did you expect to happen? And I'm looking at a quote from the Houston Chronicle where, of course, Brock is going to say this, where he goes, and I quote, "Oh, it was very difficult to leave Denver. I'd be lying if I said anything different. I had a tremendous 4 seasons in Denver. Those are 4 years I'll always hold close to my heart. Coming to Houston was an opportunity I couldn't pass up." And I'm in the same boat as you, Mark. I can understand why he went to Houston, because you're going to be the undisputed. It's kind of like in the WWE when we say undisputed champion, but you're going to be the undisputed starter for Houston. Even if they now draft a Christian Hackenberg in rounds 2, 3, 4, whatever rounds he goes in, you're still going to be the starter of the Texans, no doubt. You're in no competition for that spot. Number 2, you do get to play with a pretty damn good wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and you have one of the best defensive fronts in all of football. Even if the Texans had lost Vince Wilfork like they did, you still have a great defense on the other side. The only missing piece for this team arguably was quarterback. However, I look at the other side and I go, your team just won the Super Bowl and you want to leave?
Yeah.
Like, I say DeAndre Hopkins is a good wide receiver, but so is Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great team altogether. I mean, that defense was amazing. That offense, was good. It could have been better, obviously, but Peyton Manning wasn't the Peyton Manning that we all, know and expect to see.
He wasn't the one from Indy, that's for sure.
No, that's definitely for, or even in the last couple of years in Denver. Do I think that he could? Well, let me put it this way: do I think a quarterback leaving Denver and going to Houston could do good things? Yeah, sure. I have no reason to think they can't. Bill O'Brien's been, putting together a great team and getting them to play really, fairly well. I don't want to say really well, but fairly well. There's good stuff that's going on there. There's good things in the future for sure. I just don't necessarily, and this will be a different way of talking about this topic, I just don't necessarily think I believe in Brock Osweiler. I think when we're looking, if we were to go 5 years in the future and look back, I think what we'll be thinking about with Brock Osweiler was, man, remember when that guy got that big contract? Mm-hmm. Remember when my backup quarterback has that big contract? Because I really do think that he is just kind of average to above average. Nothing special. I mean, even Matt Flynn laughed at his contract. And that's Matt Flynn, the highest paid backup. who got his money from one game, basically against the Detroit Lions. But yeah, it's just, I think we're going to be looking back at that and just kind of laughing about it in a way. Because it's just, he didn't really put up spectacular numbers. He put up fairly good numbers, but it's not the kind of thing that you go out there and you pay the money Houston Texans paid.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that I'm thinking of is, and this is the only thing that Houston is missing, is a run game. And what does Denver have now that they matched? Well, I mean, they could have lost C.J. Anderson, but they went ahead and matched the offer sheet that they got back from Miami. So C.J. Anderson's going to stay in Denver. That's the one thing that Denver has that Houston doesn't. And I know Houston fans right now are probably thinking, yeah, but Ricky, that defense from last year keeps Von Miller, but loses Danny Trevathan, who is now with John Fox and the Chicago Bears, right in Mark's backyard, in our backyard. And defensive lineman Malik Johnson is all the way in Jacksonville playing for the Jaguars right now. So you lose some key pieces. You keep Von Miller, who's the MVP of that defense.
Destroyed the entire playoffs.
Destroyed the entire playoffs. Destroyed Cam Newton, too. But you lose Jackson and Trevathan, so that is two big hits. But, I mean, Houston did lose Wilfork. I don't know if that's the same as losing Trevathan and Jackson, but I would still say that Denver, to me, is a front runner to maybe win the Super Bowl over Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree with that. If these two teams are playing in the AFC Championship game, I'm expecting Denver to win. I don't really care who the quarterback is.
Not just that. I mean, the odds of each team getting to that championship game, I would put it more in Denver than Houston.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of, I'm talking about, like I said before, go 5 years in the future and look back. I mean, I think it's more likely that we're sitting there going, yeah, how improbable is it that Mark Sanchez came into the Denver Broncos and won a Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
And Brock Osweiler sitting there with his one Super Bowl ring, but it was as a backup. I definitely think, and I really, and we'll talk about this soon enough, but I really think that they could do whatever. They could pull in whoever, whether it's through free agency or the draft,
mm-hmm.
probably be just fine over in Denver, and that kind of goes to show why a guy like Brock Osweiler doesn't need to get that much money, or as much money as he got.
And the one thing I just looked up, and this is to go and strengthen that point of the run game, in the games that Brock Osweiler started for, these are the ones that he started or played in, like the last, 8 that he started for Denver. In every single one of those games except 2. Every single one. So in 6 out of the 8 games, Denver had over 100 rushing yards from its running backs. Only the game against Kansas City and the game against Oakland, they had less. And how it went down was 69 against the Chiefs, then 170 against your Bears, then 179 in the overtime win over New England. Then you've got 134. The 34, which was the bad game where they lost 15-12 to Oakland, but then 104, 113, and then 210 yards. Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson had 117 and 95, respectively, and each of them had a touchdown. So, I mean, I would look at that and go, you're just joined a team that got rid of their star running back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, he's got to hope that they go and get Ezekiel Elliott, basically. That's the only way they're going to repeat that.
Well, that if Zeke drops that far, that's what it's going to become. Because, I mean, the one thing that you got to look at, and, I mean, we're going to bring the draft up in a little bit. Maybe this is the thing to segue us into it right before we ask the final question of how Brock's going to do in Houston. But if you look at the order now of the NFL draft, New York doesn't need a running back, or they actually can go running back because they went ahead and signed JPP and they got another defensive end for themselves because they don't have to go defensive end. Now they're a team that could go ahead and take Elliott, but who I have going with Elliott in my last mock draft was the team that now actually traded up to number 8 and swapped with Houston, or not with Houston, with Miami. Philadelphia could go ahead and grab Zeke at number 8. So I don't even think that Zeke falls to Houston anymore.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate for Brock Osweiler, that's for sure.
And I mean,
because that's only going to help him repeat what happened in Denver.
And I mean, there are other running backs that they could go and get, but nobody that's as, I'm going to say, competent or could come in and be a stud for Brock the Cock than Ezekiel Elliott. But before we move on to our next kind of topic, I think the last thing we got to talk about is, what do you expect from Brock next year? And is Houston a playoff team with Brock at the helm?
You know, I do think that Brock Osweiler would be, you know, like I said, a fairly good starter with nothing too special in Houston. You know, a team that we could see showing up in the wild card every now and then. The problem is Andrew Luck's going to dominate this division for the remainder of his career, essentially. He's basically just going to be Peyton Manning. How often did Peyton Manning and the Colts not win that division? Then, with that being said, there's some other teams there that are doing better. You know, they're going to do better as well. Tennessee Titans, it's going to take a little bit, but they're going to get up there. Jacksonville Jaguars are looking like they're going to actually compete pretty well, too. Honestly, if I'm ranking all the quarterbacks in this division, Brock Osweiler is coming dead last. He is dead last to me.
He's even behind Tennessee?
Even behind Marcus Mariota.
Okay.
I'm going to put Mariota above Brock Osweiler just because I like what Mariota can do.
And now Mariota has a running back in DeMarco Murray.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, and I don't think it's anything that's really at Brock Osweiler's fault. It's just he's an average quarterback who's now going to be judged, you know, average to above average. I don't want to discredit him. Going to be judged at like an Aaron Rodgers level because that's kind of, you know, what he's, maybe not so much of that, but he's getting paid big boy bucks now.
Yeah.
But he's going to get compared to the big boys. And I really honestly think when we're looking back, I don't think we're going to remember this whole transaction and the way this went. I don't think we're going to remember it too fondly. I think eventually some people are going to start talking, and people in the Broncos organization are going to talk about how Brock Osweiler cut off all contact, essentially, and he wasn't really, you know, being a good sport about it. He was really upset. You know, maybe some people talk about how in the locker room he was just kind of, you know, not very happy or whatever it might be. I think we're going to be looking back, and we're not going to be looking at Brock Osweiler too fondly. You know, I think it'll be more of something like that, where I say, like, that hurts him more than his actual play, because I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be average and probably play for a while, you know, before maybe getting replaced, maybe bouncing somewhere else again because, you know, Houston goes and gets a younger guy or something like that. I don't see anything beyond the average quarterback that doesn't really accomplish much.
Well, and the one thing you just brought up, and I'm going to put another positive in why he should have went back to Denver, is the divisions. And just so short of time has gone on since free agency started. It's only been a week, technically. It's only been a week. Tomorrow will be a week as we're recording this late Tuesday night. And every single team, maybe even, like, I may say minus the Colts, because they're with a healthy Andrew Luck, they are the front runner in the AFC South. That's with a healthy Luck, though. But every other team that Houston's going to go up against, Jacksonville and Tennessee, both of those teams got better. Malik Johnson, the lineman we talked about who left Denver, where did he go? Jacksonville. Who's Jacksonville also getting back? Oh, they're also going to get back Dante Fowler Jr., so he's going to play his first year. That's two guys that are going to be coming right after Brock the Cock. And then if everybody's right in the draft and the Jaguars go out and take a cornerback, that means they're either going to have Jalen Ramsey, depending on what the Titans do. Well, actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and say this. There's a chance that Brock has to go up against both Jalen Ramsey and Vernon Hargreaves III 4 times a year next year, because they're like, Jacksonville's going to take one of them. If one of those guys falls to 5, Jacksonville's got him. However, there's a chance Tennessee could go ahead and take Jalen Ramsey at number 1. I mean, that's the surprise I had in my last mock draft. So if that happens and Ramsey goes to the Titans, Hargreaves goes to Jacksonville, then right there, you're Brock the Cock, and you've got to go up against the two best defensive backs from this rookie class that we're going to see coming out this April. I just think it's a harder division, and this AFC South has gotten so much harder. I didn't even mention DeMarco Murray, who's now right behind Marcus Mariota. So, I mean, you pick the harder division, and I get it. Maybe that's why he was saying this is an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I can be the number 1 starter. It's a harder division. I can prove myself. Kind of flip the bird to Denver when he thinks he's going to win. But I would stay in a division where, I mean, the Chiefs are your only the Chiefs are your only competition. The Chargers are kind of dwindling. Like, are we going to stay? Are we going to go? Oakland's the same way. Oakland's let's be honest. Oakland's better than they were. They're on an upward tick, which is weird to say for Oakland, but really, as of right now, the Chiefs are your only competition. If you're Denver, why wouldn't you stay in that division? I don't think Brock makes the play. As of right now, I mean, there's a lot to go this offseason, but if I had to give a pick right now, I don't think Brock makes the playoffs. There's no way he wins the AFC South. Right now, I'm putting my money on the Colts. And if you're a Houston fan, you are just sigh of relief, because Ricky didn't pick your team to do anything right now, so you have no possibility of being the kiss of death victim. However, we'll see how that goes at the offseason when we get into season picks. But